I'm Rachel Berg, and I'm here today to interview Mr. Raymond Sherlock at his home in Hudson Falls. And today is December 29th, 2005. Okay. What year were you born?
August 31, 1926.
Okay, and you grew up in Vermont, you said?
Yes, I was born in Hartford, Vermont.
What was life like in Vermont?
And just like it is right here, only a different place, that's all. It was a small town alongside the White River, where the White River joined the Connecticut River.
You said you grew up on a farm?
Yes, I went on to a farm in Northfield, Vermont that was owned by an uncle of mine.
What was it like growing up on a farm?
Great, but a lot of work.
Yeah. Did it give you a sense of responsibility?
Yes, because my uncle got hurt, and I was quite responsible for running the farm at the time that I went into the service.
Okay, how old were you when you enlisted in the service?
I lied about my age. I was 16 years old.
You said that your brothers were already enlisted?
Yeah, I had one brother in the Marines and 3 brothers in the Army.
Did you sort of look up to them being enlisted? Were you proud of them?
Yes. I was too young to appreciate what it was all about in those days. That they were in the service, and it was a thing that everybody expected to do.
So it was common?
Yeah, it was a common occurrence. Actually, I wouldn't have had to have gone with having been on the farm. I could have gotten an exemption for being a farm boy, but I didn't ask for the exemption. I enlisted.
Right, you said you felt like it was a duty to your family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so December 7th, what were you doing?
I was walking to the barn to do chores, and my cousin came out and said Pearl Harbor was attacked. And at that point, Pearl Harbor didn't mean anything to me. That it was a place in the world, and the only association I had with it was her boyfriend was in the National Guard, and he had been called in on that I'll be back in a year, little darling situation. And I had no idea what Pearl Harbor was, nor where it was at that time.
Okay, so when did you decide to enlist?
I went in September of 1942.
Okay. What made you choose the Navy?
I didn't want to walk. I thought it would be easier.
Okay. Where did you go for basic training?
I went to Sampson Naval Base in Geneva, New York.
What was it like? What were the conditions?
It was training how to get along with people. It was a 7-week rush course, getting you into shape and trying to find out where you were best suited for.
So, did you enjoy it?
No. No.
Okay. Where were you sent after that?
I went from there to Newport, Rhode Island, to torpedo school.
Okay. What was that like?
It was training. It was when we were in boot camp, you were given a choice of 3 careers you wanted to follow. And I chose quartermaster, radioman, and signalman, and was sent to torpedo school. So, worked out right, didn't it? You got a choice where they wanted you.
Okay, where were were you first sent after your training?
I went from Newport, Rhode Island to Great Lakes Naval Training for Advanced Education in Torpedo School. It's out in Chicago, and from Chicago to California to be shipped overseas.
Okay. And what was going through your mind before you were shipped overseas? Were you nervous?
I wanted to go. I couldn't wait till I got there, until I got there.
Was that the common feeling among everyone?
Yeah, you were sent in what they called an outgoing unit. And you were waiting for a C draft to go. And when your number comes up on C draft, then you go.
Okay, so how long before you first saw combat? Did you have to wait a while?
Halfway across the Pacific Ocean on my way to the Philippines.
Was it a long journey?
30 days.
30 days? Okay, and so the Philippines, that's where you first saw combat?
We had aerial attacks on the way over. We went over in a convoy.
Oh.
And we had air attacks on the way over.
What was going through your mind during the air attacks?
First time I was scared enough I could have crawled under a caterpillar with a top hat in.
What were your duties during combat?
I was a torpedoman. I handled torpedoes and depth charges.
After the Philippines, where else were you involved in combat?
I was in the Mariana Islands. I was in the Admiralties, down New Guinea, in Borneo, Leyte, Luzon, Samar, Mindanao, and the Philippine Islands.
Okay, so said you were in Leyte. Were you in the major battle at Leyte where
No, not. We were in a lot of the smaller battles. We weren't in the big major battles that were written about in the history books.
Okay, so what were those like?
Scary. They were shooting at us.
Where would you say, your most memorable battle in the Pacific?
I'd say Balikpapan and Borneo.
Okay, why is that?
That was an oil refining community. And they bombarded the shore there a lot, and they just about literally blew Borneo apart before we went ashore.
You said that you saw Admiral Halsey?
Yes.
What was he like?
He came to us on a Christmas. At one of the bases we were at, he made an appearance and made a pep talk. That was my association with Admiral Halsey.
Was he as aggressive as everyone made him out to be?
I guess he was. He didn't act aggressive to us because he was there to talk to us and wish us the best and everything. He was the commander of the 3rd Fleet in the South Pacific.
What base was it that you saw him?
Where did I see him? I think it was at Hollandia in New Guinea.
Okay. So you're facing combat there too, right?
We saw combat there too.
Okay. What were the circumstances there that he was giving you a pep talk for? What was going on?
I think what he did was he hopped some of the islands where the people were stationed, talking to the people, and I think that's what it was all about.
Okay. Okay, can you describe a typical day? More specific.
Well, if you were at sea, you got up in the morning, you stood your watches, 4 hours on duty, 4 hours off duty around the clock. And sometimes you were on gun stations, sometimes you were on torpedo tubes, sometimes you were on the Y guns for the depth charges.
Okay. How was the food?
What food? It was good, it was nourishing, it kept you alive, but we were in a lot of places where you didn't have refrigeration.
Mm-hmm.
So the food you had was your K rations, and we had a lot of Spam. And Spam isn't only just in beef, it's in canned chicken, and it's in turkey, it's in ham. We had a lot of that. And you would have it for several meals in a row. And when a ship would come in that would be fresh from the States, you would get some fresh supplies.
Do you still eat Spam today?
I do now, but I went a long time without eating it. I don't mind it anymore. I don't eat much of it, but yeah, I'll eat it occasionally.
Okay. Were you ever injured?
I got hurt. I never got a Purple Heart.
How did you get hurt?
We took a kamikaze aboard ship, took a gun mount off, and I got knocked into water.
Mm. How long were you out for?
I was in the hospitals for 9 months after that.
So what was it like in the hospital?
I first went in the hospital in Manila, and I was sent back to Pearl Harbor. I went from Pearl Harbor to Newport Naval Hospital. I went from Newport Naval Hospital to Great Lakes, Illinois in the hospital, and ended up in Corona, California,
Okay.
in the hospital.
So after that, did you go back to the facility?
I went back to duty.
Okay. What were the conditions in the hospitals like?
Good, very good.
Were there a lot of other boys in there?
Yes.
What was the major thing that you and your buddies talked about when you were there?
Girls. Naturally. What do boys talk about? The boys weren't any different than they are today. Talked about girls, you talked about things back home. And
Were you able to get mail from back home?
at times.
Okay.
At times. Lots of times you'd get it, it'd be 6 months old. Yeah.
Prior to the war, how did you feel about the Japanese and the people?
Prior to the war, I didn't trust them because we were having all this talk about peace and everything. And then when they hit Pearl Harbor, then I had no use for it.
Mm-hmm. So after the war, your feelings were basically the same?
After the war, I feel differently now. They were out there doing their duty. They had their jobs to do, the same as we had ours to do. But I'm still a little reserved of, I can't buy a Japanese-made car.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that yet. But every car you buy has got parts made in Japan. But I can't go out and buy a Honda or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you keep in touch with any of the friends that you made?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Not anymore. Most of them are gone.
When you were shipped to different places, were you kept with the same group of people, or did that change?
Say that again.
Like when you were shipped to different places in the Pacific, did you stay with like the same people? Or?
Probably 50 or 60% of them.
So did you get close to them?
Yes. Yes, you did.
Did you ever question what you were doing? Did you ever wonder why?
No, not really.
How many miles were you away when the A-bomb was dropped?
We were about 37 miles off the coast of Japan.
How did you feel?
I hadn't even heard about it until after it was dropped.
Oh, really?
That we didn't have all the communications you have today. You didn't have the television to watch and stuff. I hadn't even heard about the A-bomb until the A-bomb was dropped. That was the first I heard about it. As far as I knew, we were on our way to attack the Japanese shore, and it stopped short.
Had you ever been going through preparations to attack?
You were always making preparations for landings and fighting back. That was your job, and it was just going to be a case of doing it in a different spot, that's all.
So, had you ever actually been on shore, or were you just involved in naval battle?
Had been on what?
Had you ever been on shore, or were you just involved in naval battle?
Been ashore too.
Sure. So what was that like?
Some of that duty was very good. When we went into Borneo, the Australians were doing the inland fighting. And we were supplying them with ammunition and goods and stuff. But we took it from the beach to the front for them.
So was battle on shore just as scary as battle?
Yeah, because you didn't know what was going to happen.
What were your duties when you were on shore?
On Borneo, I was driving a 6x6 truck taking ammunition to the Australians.
Did you face fire when you were doing that? Fire?
Yeah, you were careful.
So what was going through your mind?
You didn't have roads like you have today, and the loaded truck always had the right of way, and if there was a truck coming back empty, for a case one of them had to get off the road, that the empty truck would give way to the loaded truck going in. And when you went out, you'd have a driver, and then you'd have somebody would be a gunner on the truck with you. You were doing the driving, somebody else had their finger on the trigger.
So, were you ever the one with the gun when you were on shore, or did you just drive the truck?
I had my turns.
Yeah.
I had my turns.
Was that scary?
Yeah, it was all scary. You never knew what was going to happen. Some of it was good. Most of the people on the islands, the natives, were pretty damn nice people. They were just there. That's like your people in Iraq today. The citizens over there, they don't like this any more than what the people here do.
So, did you ever go into the actual cities like they were able to do in Europe, or was it different?
Oh yes, when we went ashore, we were always told to stay out of the native villages. But we found out if you wanted to fish dinner, you went into the native villages because they lived on fish and they knew how to fix fish, and they were the best.
A little different than the Spam.
Yes, a little different than the Spam. Oh, we had good meals too, but there's lots of times you wouldn't have it. It would all depend on your refrigeration. If you had refrigeration, you had decent stuff to eat. But two long periods of time, you wouldn't have refrigeration.
So when you were in the Philippines, was that around the closing battle of the Philippines?
That was near the middles of it. I would say that was running in the 1944s in that era. We first went into Samar, and we were in Samar, we were in Calicut, we were in Mindanao, we were in Leyte, we were in Luzon. And we covered a good share of the Philippine Islands.
Where did you face, would you say, the strongest resistance?
Where I would say what?
Did you face the strongest resistance?
I would say Borneo.
Borneo? Do you want to describe that, what it was like?
It was in Balikpapan, Borneo. Does it show Balikpapan on there?
Yep, right there.
Yeah, that was the major attack of Borneo. And it was heavily bombarded before we went in. It was an oil community. And they literally destroyed it to stop the resistance.
So, was it all on fire when you got there?
Pretty much. Pretty much. I got a few pictures, not a lot of them.
Okay.
I had a lot of pictures, but during the years, my kids were taking them to school, so I don't really know what. This is what it was like when we went in there. And this is some of the stuff that they were fired with. And this is what some of it was. His ships going into battle. It's one of the beaches. The Japanese being met. And some of the population. And we used to take pictures, but we developed them on enlarged and X-ray paper, and they didn't hold up. That was off the side of an airplane. These were pilots out of Samar, of what they had on their planes. And that's the way the natives dressed. They didn't wear anything above their waist. And some of it was pretty. There was no doubt about it. This Australian cemetery in Borneo. And this is one of the kind of crafts that I operated. This is what your shores looked like when you would go in. They would just demolish them as a Japanese plane down. And that's it.
Okay. Do you mind if we point the camera at some of the pictures?
Do what?
Do you mind if we show the pictures on the camera?
No? No. pick them up. You want these pictures of these then? Yeah, when you see things like this is a number of missions that plane flew. Every one of those bombs is a mission.
So did they have to fly 25 missions before it was considered successful to do your? Wasn't like that, right?
They pick them up.
Did any of the natives know how to speak English?
No.
No.
The natives basically were very nice people.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to hang your clothes out to dry because when you went out to get them, they'd be gone. You'd see your clothes going down the street on somebody's back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is the one there the, I was looking for the one of the, you want those pictures? I was looking for the one with the the kind of duty we did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's in Borneo.
What's that?
It's the Australian, one of the Australian cemeteries with it. And all they had was two sticks nailed together with their names on them and their dog tags hanging on them.
Mm-hmm. Is that basically what all the shores looked like when you arrived to the island?
Yes. That's pretty much, there's a Japanese plane down there. I think that's all of them. And you know what dog tags were?
Yeah. Is that yours?
You had to wear those in the service.
Mm-hmm.
And they were reissued every year. And that's what was hanging on the Aussies' graves on their markers, would be their dog tags.
Mm-hmm. So, in Borneo, the Australians
This is out of the windshield of the plane that I got hurt with.
Where did that happen?
Philippine Sea.
Let's see.
And that's an Australian emblem that they wore on their uniforms. Japanese invasion money. This was currency from New Guinea and Borneo because it was owned by the Dutch. And his Philippine money. There were pesos in the Philippines, and there were guilders in Borneo, and we weren't allowed to gather much for souvenirs. There's a pack of Japanese cigarettes.
Are they in there?
Yeah, they're all falling apart, but they're still there. The camera picks up good, huh? There's some Japanese reading.
Show me back for
Can you read that?
No.
That was my ID card.
So, you showed us the picture of the Australian cemetery in Borneo, it was?
Yeah.
So they were there before the Americans arrived there?
We went in at the same time. They were doing the jungle fighting, and the Americans were supplying them. The Americans would take the beachheads and then turn the jungle fighting over to the Australians.
So did the Australians have a lot more casualties than the Americans?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that truthfully. They had smaller forces. They didn't have the equipment that the Americans had for bombarding and that sort of stuff. And when they'd go into an island, they'd go in there with messer ships and aircraft and stuff and bomb hell out of it before you went ashore.
So, towards the closing of the war, did you feel like you just wanted to get it over with?
Yes, I was glad when it was done. I'd had enough. I wasn't a glory worshiper, and I'd seen enough deaths, and I didn't care to see anymore.
Were you close to any of the men that died in the battles?
Yes. Yeah, you'd have friends one day and they'd be gone another day.
So, did you feel that your involvement in the Second World War was a defining moment in your life? Did it really make an impact on what you did when you got back?
Like I put in that letter that I filled out, I wouldn't take $1 million for the experiences I had, but I wouldn't give 2 cents to do it again. Once in enough. I could have gone into the Korean thing if I'd wanted to, but I see enough of it in the Second World War that I didn't want to go back and do it again.
So, what did you do when you got back to the States?
For a year I didn't do anything. I just played lazy for a year. And kicked around. And finally I went to work and got married and settled down. Same as everybody else does when they come out of the service.
Had you known your wife when you were in the service, or didn't you meet till after you got back?
Did I what?
Had you already met your wife before?
No. No, I met her after I came out.
Okay. Did you go back to Vermont when you came back? Or
No.
Went to New York?
No, I had a sister living in Fort Edward, and I stopped to visit for a little while, and I never went back to Vermont till the farm was sold while I was in the service. And I didn't want to go back to farming anyway. I had enough farming.
Do you feel like the skills you gained while you were in the Navy helped you with?
No, what does a torpedo man do building houses? Why I was even chose to be a torpedo man, I do believe it, that was where they needed the personnel at the time. It wasn't a duty that I asked for, but I got volunteered. I say you, and you.
What's it feel like when you're on a boat and you're trapped below, sending out torpedoes? Like, what do you?
Torpedoes were fired from above
From
deck.
above? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought they were below.
No, the tubes are on deck. It used to be you had to aim the boat to fire the torpedo. Then they got the mounts, that the mounts would revolve. They aimed the boat because they didn't want torpedoes themselves. And the depth charges, they had Y guns and K guns. A depth charge would look like a 50-gallon oil drum. Not as big as that. And some of them were on Y guns that you could shoot 2. And some were on K guns that would shoot one directly out and shoot the other one farther out. And that was all done too by aiming the boat.
Did you ever save anyone's life, or did anyone save yours while this was going on?
You never know. You never know when they're saving anybody's life or not. You don't know how many lives you took doing it either, because you got hits and you had misses. When you were firing a torpedo, you were firing it at something. And if it hit a ship, you know somebody's going to get hurt or going to get killed. It was the total object of it.
When you did hit a ship, what was going through your mind?
Do what?
What was going through your mind when you hit a ship?
Hooray. We hit them, they didn't hit us. They were trying just as hard to hit us as we were to hit them.
Mm-hmm.
No. If you hit them first, then they weren't going to hit you.
So you were happy when it happened?
Yes, at
But
that time, yes.
Did you have any feelings afterwards, like, wow, I just took someone's life, possibly?
Yes, you would have feelings. Because after a while, you got the feeling that those guys are out there doing the same thing that you're out there doing. They're out there doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
But you also felt that if you didn't get them first, they would get you first. So you're trying to stop the resistance. You see a lot of deaths and that sort of thing. But, more deaths than I ever want to see again. But the deaths you see weren't as personal as what you see in life today when you go to a wake in a funeral parlor.
Mm-hmm.
It has more meaning than it did to see the deaths in the service. It bothered you to see the death of your own people naturally, but the death of the enemy, they were the enemy.
So did you develop a real sense of camaraderie with your shipmates?
Yes, you were close. You depended on each other.
Is that what got you through?
Did you?
On a board ship, it'd be so hot down there that we had to run water on the decks so that you could walk on them. You had these steel decks,
Mm-hmm.
and with those temperatures so high and the sun shining on them, it'd be so hot that it would burn right through your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So we ran fire hoses on the decks to cool them down so you could walk on them.
Hand-to-hand combat, did you experience that, or?
And no.
No. Just lucky.
No, it's I'd say probably the closest in the combat that you would be coming, maybe half mile or something like that, but hand to hand, no, you didn't have that.
Is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up? Any closing comments?
No, I can't think of anything.
Wars today? Do you believe in wars?
No.
Still?
No, I do not believe in wars.
Did you before?
I think wars prove is who is the strongest. What's this war proving that we're in right now? I think this is, I think you're fighting a losing battle because those people over there are going to be at war when the war's over. There are warring nations, and I think they're still going to be there.
Do you feel like your involvement in the war really gave you a better ability to judge wars today?
I think so. No, I can't believe wars prove too much. I think the differences could be settled other than war. Oh, it's just taking lives.